Hey there, in today's video, we're going to be going over part 3, questions 21 to 30 from the 2016 to 2017 TMSCA General Math Test number 1. Let's do it. Alright, number 21. 3 over 14 equals what? Rounded to the nearest thousands. So this is just pretty simple division. It's just 3 divided by 14. Alright, let's do it. So 3 divided by 14. So right here, we can see that 14 obviously doesn't go to 3. So we're going to have to write a 0. Now we're going to go to the decimals. So we're going to write this as 3.0 and we're going to add a decimal point here. Now even though this is just still the same 3, we're going to see it as 30. That way we can do further division. So 14 goes into 30 twice. 14 times 2 is 28. So we write 28 here, subtract, and we're left with 2. Now we're going to have to bring down another 0. This becomes 20. 14 goes into 20 once. So we're going to add a 1 here, subtract 14. We're left with 6. Bring another 0 down. 14 goes into 60 4 times. 14 times 4 is 56. We subtract 56. We're left with 4. Alright, now we've already reached the thousands place, but just to check, we're going to go to the 10,000s place to see that we're not rounding up. Alright, so we bring down another 0. Alright, so now we can see that we have the 4. So we're going to bring down a 0 to make this 40. 14 goes into 40 2 times. 14 times 2 is 28. So we subtract 28. We're left with 12. But it doesn't even matter because 0.2142 rounded to the nearest thousands place is just 0.214. And that's your answer. Next, number 22, $32.15 equals 112 quarters plus 36 dimes plus 3 nickels plus how many pennies? That's what we're trying to solve. So this is actually a pretty simple problem. All we have to do is just find the value of these 3, then add them up, and then subtract that value from $32.15 and see how much that is in pennies. It might sound complicated, but let's do it. So first, 112 quarters. That is 112 times 25 cents, or 112 times 0.25. 112 times 0.25 is just 28. So we have 28. Next, 36 dimes. Alright, so that's just 36 times 10 cents, which is just $3.60. So $3.60. Alright, and then 3 nickels is just 5 cents. So it's just 3 times 5 cents, which is 15 cents. So 0.15. When we add this all up together, we get 31.75. Alright, now we need to take this value and subtract it from 32.15. So 32.15 minus 31.75 equals 0.40. Alright, so now we have 40 cents left. 40 cents in pennies is just 40 pennies, and that's your answer. Next, a square has a side length of 12 units. A rectangle has a side length of 11 units and a width of 17 units. How many units larger is the area of the rectangle than the area of the square? Alright, the formula for the area of a square is just a side length, so let's just say s squared. That equals the area. For a rectangle, it's just width times length, or base times height, however you want to represent it. Alright, so let's do that. First, the square. So we have the side length is 12, so 12 squared would just be 144. Next, width times length. Alright, so we have A for the rectangle, right? That's the area, correct? So that would just be 11 times 17 equals that A value, or the area. 11 times 17. 11 times 17 is just 187. Alright, now we need to see what the difference is between 187 and 144. That's just going to be 187 minus 144, which is 43, and that's your answer. Next, how many more diagonals can be drawn from one vertex of a decagon than from one vertex of a quadrilateral? Alright, the first thing we need to do is we need to find out how can we find the diagonals drawn from one vertex. Alright, so in a shape, there are a certain amount of sides. For example, a quadrilateral is a 4-sided shape. So, to find one vertex, we need to know how much sides there are. So let's take the quadrilateral, for example. The amount of sides, so let's just say that's called n, equals 4 in that case. So the formula to find one vertex, how much diagonals can be drawn from it, is just n minus 3. It's that simple. So if n is 4, then n minus 3 equals 1. Alright, now we know how many diagonals can be drawn from one vertex of a quadrilateral. We need to find how many diagonals can be drawn from one vertex of a decagon. A decagon has 10 sides. So that would just be 10 minus 3, which is 7. Alright, so now that we know that, there can be 1 drawn from the vertex of a quadrilateral, and there can be 7 drawn from one vertex of a decagon. So now we just need to see the difference, which is 7 minus 1, which is 6, and that's your answer. Next, what is the sum of the domain values of the relation -8, 9, -3, 11, -5, 6, 9, -1, 11, 0, -3, 2, 5, 5, and 6, 7. Alright, so domain value. What is a domain value? The domain value is just the x value in an xy coordinate pair. Alright, so an xy coordinate pair looks like this. X, y. Pretty simple. So what we need to do is we need to look at each of these coordinate pairs and just take the x value or the domain values from this and add them up. So let's do that. -8 is our first one. So -8. -3. -5. So let's just cross them off as we go. 9. 11. -3. 5. And 6. Alright, let's do this. So right off the bat, we can cancel out some of these terms. Like -5 and +5 cancel out. And -3, -3, and 6 cancel out. And so now we're just left with 9, 11, and -8. So -8 plus 9. That is just 1. 1 plus 11, that is just 12. And that's your answer. Next, Sophia plays softball. When at bat, she has 35% chance of not hitting the ball. If Sophia bats 120 times in one season, how many times is she expected to hit the ball? Alright, so if she has a 35% chance of not hitting the ball, that means she has a 65% chance of hitting the ball. Alright, so now we need to see 65% of 120. Now, a cool thing about math is, let's say you have a percent of b. The cool way to find that is doing the opposite. B percent of A. They equal the same thing. So instead of doing 65% of 120, let's do 120% of 65. That makes it a bit easier because we already know 100% is just 65. So all we need to do is 65, which is 100%, plus 20% of 65, which is also just 1/5 of 65. 1/5 of 65 is 13. So it's just 65 plus 13, which is 78, and that's your answer. Next, KL has endpoints K at 12, -11, and L at 60, -54. If point K is reflected across the x-axis to create point M, what the coordinates of the midpoint of LM? This problem is kind of worded wrong because there's a typo. What are the coordinates? Alright, so that's what we're looking for. So what are the coordinates at the midpoint of line LM? Alright, this is actually pretty simple. So when you reflect across the x-axis, you're just making the y value negative. So we have 12, -11. So the y value becomes negative. But in this case, it's already negative. So a negative of a negative is just a positive. So this now becomes 12, 11. That is M. Alright, now they're asking us to find the midpoint of L and M. So let's do that. The way we find the midpoint is just averaging the x's and averaging the y's. Alright, so let's do that. So we have 12, 11, and we have 60, -54. Alright, so 60 plus 12 is 72. So those two terms, the average would just be divided by 2. So that's 36. So the x-coordinate of the midpoint is 36. Now let's do the same thing with 11 and -54. So 11 and -54, we just have to add them together. So that's 11 minus 54, or the negative value of 54 minus 11. It doesn't make a difference. So 11 minus 54 equals 43. More specifically, -43. So -43, and we divide it by 2. -43 divided by 2 is -21.5. So our coordinate should look like this, and that's your answer. Alright, next, number 28. What is the sum of all positive integers that satisfy 7x plus 8 is less than 92. Alright, this is a pretty simple problem. All we have to do is get x by itself on one side of the equation. So let's do that by first getting rid of this 8 value. We can cancel it out from this side by just subtracting 8. But if we subtract 8 from this side, we have to subtract 8 from the other side as well. So we subtract 8 here. So this becomes 7x is less than 84. Now we have x by itself, but we want just x. We have 7x right now. We just want x by itself. So we're going to divide both sides by 7 to get rid of this coefficient. This cancels out to make it just x. And 84 divided by 7 is just 12. So x has to be less than 12. But if you look at the problem, it also says all positive integers. So x has to be greater than 0. The numbers that fit between this range are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. When you add all of these up, you get 66, and that's your answer. Next, number 29. 2018 minus 1898 equals what in base 6? Alright, so this value right here, this is already in base 10. When you have a standard number, that's already base 10. So what is 2018 minus 1898? So that's just 120. So 120 base 10 equals what in base 6? This is just a standard base conversion. I actually have a full video just on these base problems, which will be linked in the pin card at the top. But let's continue with this problem. Alright, so we need to convert this. So we're going to write the number 120 one more time. Now we're going to list out the powers of 6 until we get to one that is bigger than 120. Let's do it. So 6 power 0 is 1, 6 power 1 is 6, 6 squared is 36, and 6 cubed is 216. That's already bigger, so we're going to stop right there. So now we have 36, 6, and 1. We're going to do something similar to division, but not exactly division. So 36. How much times does 36 go into 120? Well, it goes in 3 times. So 120 minus 108. That leaves us with 12. Alright, so we can write 3 here for how much times 36 went in. Next, 6. How much times does 6 go into 12? 6 goes into 12 2 times. So we can write a 2 here, and we can subtract 12 because 6 times 2 is 12. So we have 0 left over. 1 obviously can go into 0, so we have 3, 2, 0. We can combine this into one big number of 320, and that's your answer. Next, number 30. Becky is deciding which of 2 simple interest accounts to deposit her money in. If she deposits $540 into account A for 10 years, the bank will give her a rate of 6%. If she deposits $600 into account B for 10 years, the bank will give her a rate of 4%. How much more interest will Becky acquire if she chooses plan A instead of plan B? Alright, let's look at this. First thing we need to know is the formula for interest when dealing with simple interest. So interest equals PRT. Price times rate times time. Alright, so let's take our 2 plans, plan A and plan B. The price for plan A is $540. That is multiplied by the rate, which is 6%, or 6 over 100. And then the time, which is 10. Alright, let's do it for the next one. So she's depositing $600 with a rate of 4%, which is 4 over 100, times 10 years. Alright, now we need to calculate the total value of both of these plans and then the difference between them. Alright, let's do it. So 540 times 6 over 100 times 10. We can write this as 540 times 6 times 10 over 100. Now that we have this, we can cancel out these 2 zeros and cancel out these 2 zeros. So now it's just 54 times 6 times 1. We don't need to write the times 1. So that's just 54 times 6. 54 times 6 is 324. So that's how much interest plan A would get. Alright, now let's see plan B. So we can write this again as 600 times 4 times 10 over 100. We can cancel out these 2 zeros to make it 60 times 4 times 1. 60 times 4 times 1 is the same thing as 60 times 4. 60 times 4 is $240. Now we just need to calculate the difference between 324 and 240, which is $84. And that's your answer. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to show your support. These videos take a lot of effort to make, and I would really appreciate it.